of the most problematic actions in Wing Chun seems to be the Bong Sau. I have seen many different methods of expressing Bong Sau in various styles of Wing Chun, as well as across the Wong Chun Lung method. Some lift the opponent's arm rather than deflecting it, whilst others use the shoulder forward out of the socket. Both these methods can cause long-term injury problems to the shoulder. Surely the purpose of any martial art is to injure the enemy and not ourselves. What we need is a method of executing Bong Sau that easily deflects the incoming force with no strain on our ligaments and tendons as are in the shoulder. Before we look further at the action of Bong Sau, let's have a look at shoulder position.
In the left-hand picture, you can clearly see the position of the upper arm ball joint in relation to the socket of the shoulder. You can see how the arm is kept in place by ligaments attaching the top of the arm to the shoulder. The right-hand picture shows the next layer over the ligaments of the muscles attached to the arm ball joint by tendons. This is the natural position of the arm to the shoulder. From this you can easily imagine that if the upper ball joint is moved forward out from the socket and then a force applied to the arm, how the now overextended tendons, muscles and ligaments are the only things supporting the arm.
When we stand normally, our shoulder should be in the correct position. Our shoulder, in fact, is above our hip. Therefore, any pressure up here is supported by the hip. If my arm is extended, any pressure on here is also supported by the hip and into the floor. Of course, if the shoulder is forward, there is nothing underneath it. So any pressure on here is going to cause a rocking forward action to lose your stance. I have seen some Wing Chun, when they start to Chi Sau, they actually put the shoulders forward. Therefore, there is a lot of strain in the shoulder, in the ligaments and in the tendons that hold the ball joint, the rotator cuff, in position in the joint. So it is a good way of practice, once you're here, to be able to extend the elbows without extending the shoulder. In the execution of Bong Sau, if one does it incorrectly, you're going to really injure the shoulder. I'm starting again from Tan Sau in the Chi Sau situation. Many people's shoulder goes forward, or at least when they start to Bong Sau, their shoulder goes up and forward. Now that the shoulder is no longer above my hip because it is out of the socket, any force down on my shoulder will cause me to fall forwards. And if I resist it, of course it is straining all the ligaments and all the tendons and muscles in my shoulder. So when we're standing naturally, your shoulder is here. This is how it should remain through all the actions in Wing Chun. It should never go forward. So when I create a Bong Sau, the shoulder is naturally supported in the socket, and you can see that the shoulder is above my hip. Now, not only do people put the shoulder forward, as I said before, they tend to lift the Bong Sau. So from the Tan Sau position, the hand goes across and the elbow lifts. This creates more pressure in the shoulder, and especially if the other person is very strong, it's not going to be easy to lift him. Now, if he is strong, to lift him, be strong, is very hard. But Bong Sau does not work on the principle of lifting, it works on the principle of deflection. So at this distance you can see if he is very strong, even with one finger you can actually deflect him rather than lift him. So this is how Bong Sau should work. Not only does it hurt the shoulder, but as you can clearly see, the second that my hand goes across, he has the line on me already. And even if he doesn't punch, then of course it's difficult to lift. We do not want at any point the action of Bong Sau availing the other person to have the line on my centre. So Bong Sau, as I've said before, works on a sphere. So I rotate the hand, rotate the elbow, and now you can see my elbow's lifting, but it's not lifting anything. The contact is here. Once it is lifted, then the elbow goes across and forward and deflects the enemy's force. As I said before, if my elbow just goes across, it means my hand comes back because this is the centre of the arc. So as the elbow goes forward, it actually goes towards his centre, thus keeping the distance from my fingers to his chest just the same. Now, if he points his finger and I rotate, you can see at no point does his finger point at my centre. If I do the other way, where the hand goes across first, his finger immediately points to my centre. In this way, Bong Sau now is deflecting. There is no force being applied to my shoulder and to my arm that I have to struggle against. In fact, if he is strong and does not respond to me but stays strong, when I rotate, you can see it's very easy to deflect the force. Therefore, from Tan Sau to Bong Sau to Tan Sau, your elbow is making the shape of a D, the letter D. So the elbow is making it there, and the elbow is making it there. Thus, we can create a Bong Sau which actually deflects the energy of the other person. So when we are in a free Chi Sau situation, we're not actually having to turn to deflect it. The deflection has already happened, and we turn to get the line and the angle. This is very important, especially this deflection, for people who don't do Wing Chun. It is all very well if I make this other type of Bong Sau, but his hand is there. What happens if he's stretching out? So it is therefore better, even if he stretches out, his hand is over there. In this way, you can see the Bong Sau and the Tan Sau working with no stress on the shoulders, no stress on the arm. Now, once the Bong Sau is completed, this angle here between the back half of the arm and your body is at 90 degrees. And of course, as we mentioned before, this part of your arm, of the forearm, is on the centre between us. Now, the other thing we haven't mentioned before is the fingers. The fingers point forward. And there's this thing called, in some Chinese styles, Lingging, which where the fingers point, the energy goes. So my energy is going forwards. Now this also affects the alignment of these two bones in my arm. If my hand is pointing down, you can see the bone alignment between these two bones has changed. If he presses on me, it's very easy to destroy my Bong Sau. But when my fingers are forward, it changes the alignment of these two bones, so the contact is on this bone, which is supported by this bone. Just as with his Fuk Sau, the contact of that bone is supported by that bone. So if you actually turn like this will be weak. Once it's here, it's strong. Now once that alignment has come into being, you can actually lean on my Bong Sau, and I can just stand there all day. You can even give it back to him, and this creates a strong structure of having the right alignment here, as well as the line of the ligaments and tendons. So now, here is Bong Sau executed as from a frontal view, so you can clearly see how the action is made. Bong Sau is quite unique in Wing Chun in the fact that the elbow is not in the normal way connected to the hip, and also in the execution the elbow actually goes outside the body line as you execute the Bong Sau. So, from a Bong Sau position, the rotation starts from the fingers and works its way up the arm. The shoulder is down, the elbow comes outside, and the hand goes across with the elbow extending towards the enemy's centre, so that the fingers, as in Bong Sau to Bong Sau, remain the same distance from the enemy and the same height. Wong Lun once said that Bong Sau is a teacup. In Bong Sau you have your teapot, so you pour the tea into the cup. Now, mistakes that can be made are as follows. As we know, when the hand goes across, the elbow lifts. Rather than deflecting, we are now lifting the enemy's force. As we rotate the arm, may be correct, but then as the elbow lifts, the hand comes across, which again causing a lifting effect. Bending the wrist can also cause a weakness in the structure, caused by the unalignment now of the ligaments in the arm and hand. Not extending the elbow when you come across creates a weakness, as your energy on the hand side is coming back towards you. The enemy then can come forward. Putting the shoulder forward is another mistake we've already discussed, which causes a weakness for your centre to be toppled forward. Having your hand on the centre is also another weakness. You can try this with somebody else using a Bong Sau in this configuration and press down on here and see how much they can hold the force. The actual centre is here. This point is on the centre. You can measure this from the start of Silam Tan. Or, in the words of another Wing Chun instructor, you can take this distance here and measure it down here, and you also have the centre. Now, how does Bong Sau work for taller people? I have seen the concept that when Bong Sau is used against a taller person, the elbow is raised higher, which of course cannot help the shoulder going up as well. The idea is that their force is diverted down in this way. This may work, but the problem with this is that it causes a lot of pressure in the shoulder area and causes long-term damage to your shoulder. My own personal experience has caused me to use Bong Sau on a taller person with the hand higher but the elbow at the same height. A height that if I go any further would raise my shoulder, but my shoulder at this point is still down. In this way, I find that I can still apply the elbow successfully on the enemy's centre. So, when Bong Sau is in its completed position, this part here between the shoulder and the back half of the arm is at 90 degrees. This is on the centre. And the fingers must point forward. In fact, the way the fingers point also affects the two bone alignment in here, in the forearm. So, if this is correct here, then you can see that this bone, where the contact is supported by this bone behind. If your fingers were like that, then this is weak and will also destroy the structure of your Bong Sau. The fingers point forward is also creating a feeling of energy going this way, as with the elbow, and creates a better structure for Bong Sau.